Imagine some of the most famous faces in the world, singers, actors, entrepreneurs, no longer walking red carpets, but prison yards. What sounds like an absurd rumor is, in reality, a harsh truth. Behind bars sit people who once thrilled millions of fans, broke records, and shaped entire generations. Their stories are full of glamour, scandals, and finally, deep downfalls. In this video, we take a look at 7 famous personalities whom everyone in Europe knows, and who must now redefine their lives behind bars. You will be surprised who is on this list, and even more so, why they ended up there. 1. R. Kelly. Robert Sylvester Kelly, better known as R. Kelly, was one of the biggest R&B stars for decades. With his unique voice and songs like I Believe I Can Fly, he made weddings, parties, and countless personal moments unforgettable. For many, he was the embodiment of talent and charisma, but behind the applause and the spotlights, a different picture emerged early on. Already in the early 2000s, the first accusations appeared, shaking his image. Videos and statements raised doubts about his flawless facade, but for a long time, he remained untouchable. In 2019, a documentary changed everything. Surviving R. Kelly gave a voice to the women who had been silent for years. Their harrowing reports of control, manipulation, and abuse made the world listen. From that moment on, it was clear the truth could no longer be suppressed. In 2022, a verdict followed in New York, 30 years in prison for serious offenses, and in 2023, he was sentenced to an additional 20 years in Chicago, of which 19 years will be served concurrently. This means he will not be free until 2045 at the earliest. The man who once sang of freedom now spends his life behind bars. His rise was spectacular, his fall even more spectacular. What remains is the memory that fame does not protect against the consequences of one's own actions. 2. Elizabeth Holmes. At just 19 years old, Elizabeth Holmes dropped out of Stanford to found a company that allegedly would revolutionize the world of medicine. Her startup, Theranos, promised to be able to perform hundreds of tests with just a single drop of blood. With her black turtleneck, deep voice, and charismatic demeanor, she was celebrated as the female counterpart to Steve Jobs. Investors flocked. Media named her the youngest self-made billionaire, and in 2015 she even appeared on the cover of Forbes. But behind the glowing headlines lay a bitter truth. The technology never worked as she promised. Patients received false diagnoses, doctors relied on unreliable results, and yet Holmes maintained the illusion with clever staging, manipulation, and pressure on her employees. When the truth finally came to light, the house of cards collapsed. In 2022, a jury found her guilty of fraud and conspiracy. In the same year, she received a sentence of more than 11 years in prison. Since May 2023, she has been serving her sentence in a correctional facility in Texas. From the celebrated beacon of hope in Silicon Valley, she became a cautionary example of how far blind ambition and deception can lead. Elizabeth Holmes's story shows that even in a world of innovation, trust is fragile and once destroyed, hardly recoverable. B. Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson was a familiar face to millions of television viewers. In the cult sitcom That 70s Show, he embodied Stephen Hyde, cool, sarcastic, and always with a mocking remark on his lips. For many fans, he was a symbol of an entire comedy generation. But what seemed so carefree on screen concealed a much darker truth in reality. Starting in 2017, several women came forward and accused Masterson of sexual assault, particularly sensitive. Some of them were also members of the Church of Scientology, to which he also belonged. The accusations rocked Hollywood, and soon Netflix and his agency parted ways with him. The first trial in 2022 ended with a hung jury, but during the retrial in 2023, everything came to light. Testimonies revealed not only the acts themselves, but also attempts at intimidation and pressure on the victims. The court found him guilty on 2 counts and sentenced him in September 2023 to 30 years to life in prison. A once celebrated TV star became a deterrent example overnight. His career, his popularity, all lost. What remains is the warning that even in Hollywood, fame does not mean immunity. 4. Jared Fogle. Jared Fogle became a national sensation in the early 2000s. His incredible weight loss story, over 90 kilos less through a diet of Subway sandwiches, made him the face of the fast food chain. He traveled the country, gave talks at schools, and was considered a role model for discipline and self-improvement. For many, he was proof that anyone with willpower could change their life. But the image of the likable sandwich hero broke abruptly in 2015. During an FBI search of his home in Indiana, investigators discovered shocking material, thousands of illegal files and evidence of interstate travel to commit criminal acts. The revelations deeply shocked the public. Subway immediately cut all ties and erased him from their history. In court, he had little defense. In the same year, Fogel accepted a plea deal with the prosecution. He received a sentence of 15 years and 8 months. His earliest possible release is scheduled for 2029. Today, Jared Fogle lives a completely different life, no longer as a celebrated brand ambassador, but as a prisoner whose name has become synonymous with disappointment and deception for many. His case shows how quickly a meteoric rise can lead to the deepest downfall. 5. Ian Watkins. Ian Watkins was once a celebrated rock star. As the frontman of the Welsh band Lost Prophets, he embodied the wild, rebellious spirit of an entire music generation. With energetic performances, anthems like Last Train Home, and millions of albums sold, he filled arenas and had a loyal fan base, even far beyond Europe. For many, he was the face of British alternative rock of the 2000s, but behind the bright lights and thunderous applause, something abysmal was happening. In 2012, a police operation for drug offenses led to a house search. What investigators found there surpassed all imagination: disturbing digital material and evidence of serious crimes. A year later, Watkins confessed to several charges, including abuse and exploitation of children. The verdict was devastating: 29 years in prison, followed by another 6 years under strict supervision. And even in prison, he made headlines when he illegally possessed a cell phone and received an additional 10-month sentence for it. His earliest chance of release is deep into the 2040s. The consequences were final. Lost Prophets immediately broke up, their music disappeared from radio programs, and many fans burned their CDs. The celebrated idol became a man whose name is now inextricably linked with betrayal and abhorrence. His downfall is one of the most drastic in the history of rock music. 6. Gary Glitter. In the 1970s, Gary Glitter, actually Paul Gadd, was a dazzling figure in the glam rock scene. With his glittery costumes, platform boots, and unmistakable stage presence, he made stadiums tremble. His songs became anthems of an entire era. Millions of records flew off the shelves, and he was considered a symbol of exuberance and energy. But the glamour was deceptive. Already in 1999, he was first convicted for possession of illegal images. Although he served his sentence, his reputation was irrevocably destroyed. In the following years, Glitter tried to escape the constant attention by traveling to various countries, but wherever he appeared, new scandals followed. In 2006, he was again convicted in Vietnam for serious offenses against minors. In 2015, he was again in court in the UK, this time as part of the large-scale Operation Yewtree, which investigated historical abuse cases involving prominent personalities. The verdict: 16 years in prison. Although he was released in early 2023 after serving half of his sentence, just a few weeks later he violated his conditions by accessing prohibited content. The authorities reacted immediately, and Glitter ended up back in prison. The former pioneer of glam rock is today just a broken man whose name is no longer associated with music, but with scandal and betrayal. His story shows that fame may delay responsibility, but never negates it. 7. Josh Duggar. Josh Duggar was known to many viewers through the reality show 19 Kids and Counting. The large family was considered the epitome of traditional values, deep religiosity, and moral purity. Millions followed their lives on television, and Josh, the eldest son, was portrayed as a role model of a strictly religious family. But the image of the virtuous family began to crack. Already in 2015, old police reports surfaced showing that Josh had behaved inappropriately towards several minors in his youth, including even his own sisters. Because the cases were time-barred, no charges were brought at the time, but the scandal led to the show's cancellation and destroyed his public reputation. The deepest fall followed in 2021. The FBI found illegal material with him that even experienced investigators described as particularly disturbing. In 2022, a court found him guilty, and he received a sentence of 12 years and 7 months. His earliest possible release is in 2032. For many who had seen the family as a symbol of purity and faith, this downfall was a shock. Josh Duggar stands today as a cautionary example that no publicly constructed image, however brilliant it may seem, can forever cover up the truth. These were 7 famous personalities who once stood in the spotlight and now live behind bars. Their stories could hardly be more different: musicians, actors, entrepreneurs, TV stars, and yet they have one thing in common: fame and success could not protect them from the consequences of their actions. What we can learn from this is clear: no applause, no wealth, and no popularity can obscure the truth indefinitely. Justice finds its way, sometimes late but inevitably. For fans, there is often only disbelief when idols fall, and the memory that people, no matter how famous they are, must take responsibility for their actions. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any more exciting stories. We'll see you in the next video.